Good. Well, it was good to be out there practicing again. It seemed like it came up quickly. Doesn't seem that long ago that we were having bowl practice, but as a coach, you know, the thing that you always enjoy most is teaching the players, and practice is the best time to do that. Spring practice is an opportunity to, you know, sort of establish a standard of excellence for your team, individually and collectively. For, you know, there's a standard. Each guy's at a certain place relative to being the best player that he can be, and, you know, we're trying to sort of create a framework as coaches and the guidelines as coaches to help those guys develop and become the best players that they can be. And hopefully they not only take ownership for what they have to do, but also for the people around them and the people on their unit, so that we can build some team chemistry, have the kind of leadership that we need to, you know, maybe develop into the kind of competitive team that we need to be to have the success that we're probably capable of having. I think the things that we really want to emphasize is the number one thing about spring practice is establishing fundamentals. I mean, we lost games last year because of fundamentals. Fundamentals as simple as how to carry a football. So all those things are things that, whether it's tackling on defense, leveraging the ball on defense, keeping receivers cut off, whether it's, you know, execution of every player, blocking the right guy up front on offense, using the right technique, using the right steps, every runner pressing the hole the right way and making the right cuts, receivers getting in position to make plays, whether it's run or pass, and quarterbacks, you know, having the knowledge and experience to have good judgment in terms of what they do and the decisions that they make. You know, knowledge of your position. I mean, this is the time to become the master of your position. We don't have to play any games. We don't have any game plans that we're putting in. So everything that we do should be about what we do. Obviously, you know, coming off of spring break today, I was pleased with the practice that we had. I was pleased with the carryover. Coming out of off-season program, if we'd have started spring practice right out of that rather than having 9 or 10 days in between, we probably would have had a little better conditioning. I think, you know, some guys got tired today and it was difficult, but there was a great lesson to be learned from that, you know, we always emphasize effort, toughness, and discipline to execute. You can't do any of those three of those things if you're not in shape. You know, if you're not in condition, you loaf. When you get tired, which means you're not giving effort and you're not finishing plays. It affects your mental toughness to be able to play with the kind of physical and mental toughness you need to be a great competitor, and you make mental errors when you're tired, so it affects your ability to execute. So that's very important, and that's very important to building team chemistry. So, you know, hopefully we'll see which path, you know, this team takes. You know, are they going to take the path of commitment to do all the things they need to do to be all they can be, or, you know, are we going to not do the kind of things from a work ethic standpoint, from a commitment standpoint, from a team togetherness standpoint, from a positive energy and attitude standpoint that's going to help us develop to be all we can be. A couple of thoughts about practice. Injuries, you know, a couple guys, everybody was able to participate. Guys that had black shirts on today, all of them were able to run, all of them were able to do things. They may be limited in some way when contact comes. Well, we didn't have a contact practice today, so they weren't limited at all. But to address the black shirt guys, Atchison had a bicep. I think everybody knows that. Mark Barron had a shoulder pec injury. Everybody knows that. Perry had a shoulder. Smelly had a wrist that he actually hurt in the off-season program. It's something that bothered him before, but he re-aggravated it. We thought it'd be better to take care of it. We took care of it. So he'll have a cast on for several more weeks, which will affect his ability to have contact. Jarek Williams had his shoulders done, so he also is limited in terms of his contact right now, which we really won't have until Friday, because the first two practices have to be in shorts and helmets. From a position standpoint, because we only have 3 quarterbacks on scholarship, we're leaving Blake Sims at quarterback and seeing how he develops, sort of as an insurance policy. There may be some position that we develop him at later. I mean, we looked at him a little bit as a running back last year, which we may do again, or a receiver. But for right now, we felt the first thing he needed to do was learn quarterback from an emergency standpoint. So that's what we're doing with him. Now, Anthony Orr has been a guy that had a good redshirt year last year, showing some ability to pass rush and do some things. He's not quite big enough to be a defensive end, so we were going to try him at jack linebacker, outside linebacker. That was new for him today. And Vinny, who really was recruited sort of as an athlete linebacker, we just wanted to see if he could play safety, and because we know that he can play linebacker. So that's more of an experiment than anything else. To address Mark Barron, and this is all I'm going to say about this. Mark Barron used poor judgment in sort of protecting his friend, his cousin, his relative, whatever you want to say, rather than cooperating with authorities and giving them the information they needed to investigate their case. We always think our players should respect people that are in a position of authority, especially the police, who do a lot to protect all of us in terms of what they do. And I think Mark learned that he did not use good judgment, in this case, and not saying what he could have said that would have helped the police. Robbie Green was not at practice today because he is suspended for violation of team rules and policies for right now, and we'll see where that takes us down the road, and that's all I'm going to say about that. Any other discipline that's going to be handled with either one of these players will be handled internally and will not be talked about, publicly.
Go ahead. Talking about Mark Barron, how is he coming along physically?
Yeah, he's doing great. He did great in the off-season program. He's got full range of motion, which is the biggest issue with this injury. I think that right now, to use that, daily is the number one thing that we're trying to get him to do. Reach up and catch balls and feel natural and comfortable with it and use it. I mean, even when he runs, he doesn't quite rotate that arm quite as much as he does the other arm, and I think he thinks he is. All right, but I just think it's something that he just has to continue to work through, and I think as he goes out there and plays and competes, that's going to be the best way for him to develop that confidence. But he's at no risk from an injury standpoint.
Hitting would be far off at this point.
No, it's not far off, but I don't think it's going to be something that we do in the immediate future.
Three new assistant coaches out there today, some young guys, a lot of energy. How are they contributing, or what's different about their styles?
Well, I don't think there's anything really that different. We don't really hire people to come in here and do what they do. We hire them to come in and do what we want them to do. And I think they all did a really good job of that. So I'm pleased and happy with the staff chemistry that we have, the way the guys work together. I think there was, with the two new additions on offense, there was certainly a lot of familiarity. One guy had been here for a season before. Another guy had worked with Coach McElwain before. So it's not like we have people that are totally foreign, to what we're, trying to do. Kevin Steele uses the same scheme at Clemson to a large degree that we use here. So this guy has some background in what we do. He's a bright guy and has worked very well, with the staff and with the players to this point. So I was pleased. I was pleased with the way these guys contributed in recruiting, and I've been pleased with the addition that they've made and the positive energy and attitude that they bring, as well as some of the new ideas that they bring.
Coach, I wanted to ask you about the senior class. It's pretty large. I think you're somewhere around 20 seniors this spring. How much does that help in terms of having leadership out there with a lot of young guys, including almost 10 early enrollers that aren't familiar with a lot of things?
Well, I think that probably some of the reason that we suffered a little last year is that we only had 8 seniors. And I think that it causes a little bit of a void in leadership. But this year, having, I don't know the exact number, it might be 19, I'm not sure, but I might be miscounting. But And I think a lot of those guys have made a significant contribution to the program here in the past in terms of how much they've played and how much they've contributed. Some of those guys have leadership quality, and some of those guys had demonstrated a lot of leadership here in the past, whether it's Dante Hightower and Mark Barron, both, elected as captains as underclassmen. To have those guys back is, a real asset in terms of their leadership and the way people look up to them. I think that, William Vallejos and Barrett Jones, and even though he's not technically a senior, he'll have another year as a fifth year. Those guys have played a lot of football and add leadership. Hanks and Mays have both played a lot of football around here. Trent Richardson's not a senior, but he's played a lot of football here. So, we have quite a few guys. Josh Chapman is a senior, and he's played a lot. So, we do have a lot of guys. Courtney has played a lot. And I think that knowledge and experience and confidence that those guys bring is very, very helpful. Even though some of the other guys in the secondary are not seniors, having played all new players last year except for Mark Barron, I think the maturity of that group and the confidence of that group and the chemistry of that group is probably going to be something that is beneficial. I think one of the things in our off-season study that we found is we made more mental errors on defense, even though statistically, we didn't fall off a whole lot. I think we gave up 13 points a game, 13 point something. The year before we gave up 11 point something. A lot of the statistics were very similar, but the mental errors were way up, and a lot of plays that we gave up at times were because of people not being in the right place and making mental errors. And I think that came largely due to lack of experience of having 9 new starters, on defense. So I think that having a lot of that experience back and a lot of those seniors back is going to help develop the chemistry of this team.
Coach Saban, I'm sorry to get away from today's practice for a second, but something that's been in the news with the NFLPA's decision to decertify, that basically leaves all the agents out there, or anybody who wants to call themselves an agent, unregulated, unsanctionable, et cetera. Do you address that with your players? Do you heighten your vigilance since really anybody can now say they're an agent and do
well, but I think that there's a possibility that there may be some people that may do some things, but I'm not sure how much, and this is no disrespect to the agents, but how much regulation they've really feared in terms of what some of the guys have done. And I think those kind of guys will continue to do what they do, and the good guys that respect and trust and try to do the right things relative to the rules of the NCAA, of college players, and of the NFL will continue to do the right things. So I don't see a bunch of people trying to jump out there and do something that's crazy. But we will address it with our players. We did discuss it today. It will be something that we make them aware of. But we've really not had problems here with guys that are seniors. And I've talked about this before. Our problems all come with underclassmen who are not allowed to talk to agents to start with. So we can't give them the information here that they should get, that they're entitled to. And that's why I have constantly supported getting rid of and abolishing the junior rule. So, but that's going on regardless of NFLPA or not. So I do think it's a good point. I think it's something that we really need to pay attention to with our players so we don't have additional issues.